Chapter 15. The room was almost bare of formal furniture. It was a wide, open space, save for a large dining table with chairs and an eclectic array of large cushions and bean bags scattered across the floor. These weren't your typical cushions. They were oversized, soft, but somewhat saggy, stuffed with small chunks of foam that shifted to support the body however it was placed. They invited a sense of hominess and comfort. The floor was a bouquet of natural fiber rugs that made it the place to sit, but there were two comfy armchairs for those neither willing nor able to bend the knee. Mortar and pestles lay waiting here and there, their newly honed stone surfaces gleaming ready for use, and sheets of baking paper, stacked, with hair straighteners acting as paper weights, lay plugged in at odd angles, their rechargeable battery indicators glinting faintly green under the dim light. It was an environment of casually textured bohemia. Russell paused for a moment, taking in the scene around him. The others in the room were getting comfortable by slightly readjusting themselves as they nestled into their sag bags, beautifully decorated with symbolism, a visible shift as they mentally switched gears. They were transitioning from private contemplation to the external focus of hearing Russell's story. This is why people pre-announce stories, so others can prepare to receive and experience rather than think through them. Russell took a breath.
The worst phone call I ever had in my life was the one telling me that you were dead, lying in the back of an ambulance, being revived on the way to the hospital. My entire world just froze. Everything I knew, everything I loved, liquefied, and I felt as if it felt like I was drained, as if my very essence was being sucked into the floor and there was no way to stop it.
His words hung heavily in the room, and everyone but Oscar closed their eyes.
When we finally got to the hospital, you were on life support. Without it, you couldn't breathe. My brain was numb. I couldn't think. I couldn't feel. It was as though I, too, had fallen into a coma. I was existing but not alive. Your brain function was minimal, too low to offer any real hope. 3 days later, I got a call from an old friend of mine, Eric here, who took over most of the thinking for me. He had facilities and specialized equipment they were developing which could keep a person in a state of stasis. The idea was that, hopefully, the brain would heal itself, the body would recalibrate, and you'd awaken eventually. So that's what we did. It was the only option we had. We could only support, monitor, and plan for the day you'd hopefully wake up.
Russell paused and took a drink before continuing. His words hung heavily in the room, and everyone but Oscar closed their eyes.
When we finally got to the hospital, you were on life support. Without it, you couldn't breathe. My brain was numb. I couldn't think. I couldn't feel. It was as though I, too, had fallen into a coma. I was existing, but not alive. Your brain function was minimal, too low to offer any real hope. 3 days later, I got a call from an old friend of mine, Eric here, who took over most of the thinking for me. He had facilities and specialized equipment they were developing which could keep a person in a state of stasis. The idea was that, hopefully, the brain would heal itself, the body would recalibrate, and you'd awaken eventually. So that's what we did. It was the only option we had. We could only support, monitor, and plan for the day you'd hopefully wake up.
Russell paused and took a drink before continuing.
The government regulations were strict. They would only allow us to keep you in that state for 10 years. That was it. 10 years, no more. So, we kept you in stasis, hoping for a miracle. When that time was up, we slowly brought you out of it, and your brain responded better than we expected. You became alert, responsive. But every night, when you fell asleep, the memories of the previous day were gone. It was like you were waking up out of coma every single day. And that kind of strain, the stress, was taking a toll on your brain. We couldn't put you back in stasis, but we could induce sleep, so that's what we did. A few weeks at a time, to let your body recover, to give you time to heal from the anxiety. We would wake you, we would monitor you, and when it got too much, we'd put you to sleep again. Every time you woke up and experienced difficulties, we would re-sleep you, then let you wake up fresh and try again. Despite the memory loss, your physical condition kept improving. You were able to move more, exercise more, and we thought that might help you regain some of your shorter memories. But it didn't. And that was the hardest part. I watched you, Oscar. Every time you woke up, I hoped. But it just wasn't working, and that made me despondent.
He stopped speaking for a moment and pulled another cone. He exhaled a jet stream of smoke, his eyes turning inward as he sifted through the memories of those dark years. Then, with a hearty laugh, he said,
"Oh, Oscar, everybody knows I made a lot of money on the stock market. What most people don't understand, though, is that the market is like a form of gambling for me. Turns out,
He paused and winked at Oscar.
I've got a bit of a gambling problem."
He laughed again as he leaned back. He now reached for a metal pipe, filled it with marijuana, and lit it. The smoke curled up slowly, hazily. He sighed deeply, his tone loose and flamboyant, as if he was letting go of his parental mask of togetherness.
I didn't lose it all. No, but I lost a good chunk. It wasn't just the stock market. I also lost heaps at the casinos. I loved the escape, the highs and lows, not realizing how deep into it I had fallen.
Russell's expression shifted, becoming more reflective, his voice softer, slower.
I turned my back on everything, the message, the guides, your mother, and you. I went on a bender. I needed to escape the crushing fucking weight of it all. One day, my darkest moment, I had my fall, and I finally saw the appeal you saw, and ending it all.
Turns out that Russell is a pretty good storyteller when he is stoned. He makes little rhymes and is emotionally engaged and engaging. He had everyone's attention held in his tale's gravity. He paused, his eyes distant as he recalled that fateful night.
I found myself in Las Vegas, down on my luck, sitting in a bar, and then out of nowhere, I heard my guide's voice. It was loud, clear, so urgent. I looked up, and I saw a vision. I swear it was like a freight train coming straight at me. The light was so bright, it instantly melted the resolve I had mustered to do the unthinkable. I could feel its illumination even in my bones, and the voice, though loud, was soft like a whisper. It said, "Check your AI companion. Someone interesting is nearby. Someone you should meet and talk to."
Russell looked over at Oscar.
We all have different AI bots for different parts of life. An AI companion is like an app, not for dating, but for friendship. You're just looking for someone to talk to, someone who shares your interests. It connects you to people nearby who might be worth meeting. So, I opened the app. It found a guy named Hans, who turned out to be into thermoelectrics, something I've been interested in for a while. So, I messaged him, and we met for dinner. Hans was a big, burly guy with a deep voice and a bushy beard, but he was as gentle as could be. He struck me as a man of complete honesty, the kind of person who would never lie in their life.
Russell smiled to himself, the memory still fresh.
We talked about solar, how solar panels only capture about 30% of the sun's energy. The rest just gets lost as heat. I was working on a system to capture and use that heat energy, trying to figure out a way to boost the efficiency. Hans told me his story about living in a remote, cold Nordic region, entirely off the grid without electricity, water, or gas. He uses the waking dream state to get ideas. He'd have visions not only in deep states of meditation, but throughout the day, no matter what he was doing, as long as he stayed in a calm, relaxed pace. One day, he went into town to get supplies, and after he'd finished shopping, his guide instructed him to visit a scrapyard, telling him to buy something he didn't even know he needed. At the scrapyard, Hans found a huge old rear projection TV. It was a junker, but his guide told him it was precisely what he needed, so he took it. He was guided to split the screen, and he found one of the split screens was a giant magnifying glass. And through the dreaming, his guide showed him how to use it to focus sunlight and melt steel. It worked. His guide led him to cut a hole in an old shipping container, fill it with sand, and place it under his house. He then built a wall of cinder blocks around it, and then a wall of straw bales, which he rendered. The magnifying glass would only heat the sand for a few hours per day, but that was enough to keep his house warm all winter. This system allowed him to heat his home without ever needing to chop firewood again. It was a fantastic solution, and it all came from the waking dream state. Hans told me that since he connected, his guides showed him easy ways to live so that he could focus more time to respiration. He used to spend hours per day just collecting and chopping the firewood, and this invention gave him lots of time to focus on what was now a more important activity. That night, I told him all about you, and he invited me to his room, where he gave me something. He gave me 2 subs. He said they were given to him by a friend with the instructions that he would meet the right person to pass them on to. Hans didn't know what these devices actually were, but he believed that I was the person for whom they were meant and that these tools were exactly what I needed to help you. He told me to place one near your heart and to have whoever was visiting you wear the other. We don't know how they work. We have them, we use them, but we don't understand them. All I know is that when you woke up, there was a spark. There was hope. As you wore it, you could keep your memories day after day. It was a miracle. We've kept them safe, kept them pure. People are speculating, but we've kept it all private. No one knows the full truth except those of us in this room. And I hope you'll understand, Oscar, that everything we've done with the best intentions.
Oscar nodded, his face unreadable.
I understand.
He said softly. The revelation hung over him and would softly rain upon him as he continued to soak it in. Eric was a pragmatic guy. He broke the silence.
Well, I think we need to take a look inside. We can't just keep speculating forever. Let's open one very, very carefully.
Russell looked pained.
If it were just a simple plastic casing, maybe, but it's not. It's like a soft stone.
He handed the second sub that they wore when visiting with Oscar to Eric, who examined it carefully. He rubbed his thumb along its edge, noticing the lack of any obvious seams or manufacturing marks.
It's smooth, no joints. Feels like some kind of glaze over it.
He muttered, taking out his car keys. He gently scratched the surface, causing fine white powder to fall away.
Looks like plaster of Paris. I'm seeing copper underneath. We need to take this to someone with more expertise.
Russell's lips were pursed and sweat beaded. He went to Withene and squeezed her hand. They had guarded the subs with their lives, and now something was about to unfold that they couldn't control. Eric made a plan.
Let's go see the jeweler. She has small tools and a magnifying glass thingy. We'll get this looked at properly.
With that, they set off, heading to make the unknown known.